Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. This is a 5-minute chart of gold. You can see that right after the market closed, pretty much out of the gate, we got another blast off. Starting to look, these $10 and $20 moves are starting to look small because we're swinging. You can see we swung $18.95 down to $18.60, 30, 40, $50 move. So looks like we're getting ready to take out or approach 2,000. If you remember back at when we did cover the interview with James Turk, he had projected his price, I believe it was 1760, something like that, and he saw that as a takeoff point, and you can see we pretty much were really running from that point. So it looks like he was accurate in his forecast. If we pull out to the daily, you can see we're just going parabolic now, just straight up, but even more so than just a straight parabolic move. We're entering a new range of parabolic moves, so looks like 2,000 is probably in the bag in the next week or two. Over to silver. Wanted to take you to the 5-minute here. If you remember, I pointed out the range expansion here that we had recently, and you can see the volatility that came, and that's usually an indicator of much higher prices in the direction of the existing move, and that appears to be the case. We had a huge breakout once we got through 43. Now we're forming a kind of cup formation. You can see that after hours we actually took out 44 right when the market came back online after hours. So we're building a base here. The pattern has changed a little bit recently to where we seem to be running up in the evenings, and it looks like the trading is happening in Asia, and then what's happening in the day is it's dropping, but it's recovering. So it kind of looks like Asia's starting to take over as the leader. Wanted to pull up the MACD and show you the crossovers. If you remember, I predicted that with the triple cross that we had, this 8-hour crossover, the daily crossover, which is now fully developed, and then especially this weekly crossover, which last time I talked to you it was just touching. Now it's clearly crossed, so there's no question that this is a crossover on the weekly, and you can see the blue line is actually starting to turn positive. If we get in close, the blue line is starting to rise too. So very bullish on those. It looks like we're going to probably challenge 50 by the fall or sometime during the fall if this keeps up. You can see that we're completely reset. We didn't go back to the zero line, but we reset back to, you can kind of draw a trend line at the tops of these MACDs and see that we went below it and now we're crossing back through that line. So a fairly healthy correction on the technicals. Not so much on the price, but a lot of people got an opportunity to jump in and get some cheap silver, hopefully. I wanted to take a look at Bank of America because I've been following that stock fairly closely. Today's close was really ominous. There were some articles that came out. There's one on Zero Hedge. I'm not going to cover that, but it's looking very bad for this stock, and it's starting to behave the way the stocks of Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and some of the others that went into bankruptcy. So I'm going to call a bankruptcy for Bank of America. I think probably by this September, probably during the month of September, I expect that Bank of America will go bankrupt. And that's going to be a big, big event, and that's going to have very large repercussions. You can see the closing volume the closing volume is always high on these stocks. You can see that every day here. Most of the volume comes in on the open and on the close. So you can see heavy, but there's extremely heavy selling right at the close. You've got 10 million and 5 million, 8 million, 10 million, 15 million. For the last half hour of trading, they were really selling this. And you can't short a stock under 5, so it's pretty much the last chance to get in to short this stock. Once it crosses under 5, you can't short it anymore. So I expect that Bank of America is probably going to be bankrupt within a month. Will that bring on QE3? I don't know. I think the odds are, if I had to give odds, I would give 80% chance that they're going to do a QE3 and 20% chance that they pull the plug and just let the whole thing collapse. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. And in the financial news, of course, the financial news is just terrible. I wanted to play a little bit of Eric and Joe talking on their show and use that to segue into another story I want to talk about that just typifies the type of situation we're in. So let's listen to a little bit of Eric and Joe.
Right. Well, what we're starting to see now, all of a sudden, here in the second half of 2011, is the amount of new people missing their first, second, and third payments. And when that happens, of course, you've reached the point of no return. But it's a never-ending cycle. They try to prop up this market. They never let the houses go to where they should have went, and they're going to go there anyway. The only difference is, instead of taking out 7 million people, it's going to take out 20 million. I mean, that's the only difference, because at the end of the day, nobody's got any money. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, they've approved fare hikes for all of its bridges, tunnels, and trains. And I was actually in New York City in October with the wife and the kids. Toll roads are a whole heck of a lot more expensive than anywhere else.
They charge you like to cross the Brooklyn Bridge?
Absolutely. They charge to cross anything.
I wonder what it costs. What's it cost?
Well, now they're saying that just to cross from New York to New Jersey, it's going to cost between $7.50 off-peak to $9.50 during peak hours. That's a raise of $1.50 a pass. And you guys with the Easy Pass, you're going to pay $2 extra, and up to $12 in September, and it's going to go to $15 by December of 2015.
What?
Yeah. Just to cross into New York from New Jersey.
Now, see, they should put a bridge from Phoenix to Scottsdale. They can charge like $100. That would slow everything down. It would fix the economy.
How about this? Philadelphia schools, talking about being broke. They announced today that the school's chief would be brought out of her contract that pays her, you're not going to believe it, when we get back because of money problems.
So they come back and talk about this story about the school chief in Philadelphia. So I did a little bit of follow-up on that. This woman's name is Arlene Ackerman, and she just was given her walking papers for being the superintendent of the Philadelphia public schools. Now, I got a number of articles. I just wanted to show you I've done a lot of articles covering the looting on Wall Street. Now we're going to look at some of the looting on Main Street by these government criminals, which is the only way to describe them. They're government criminals. These are the criminals on the left. So you're being looted from the criminals on the right, and now you're being looted by the criminals on the left. So let's look at this Arlene Ackerman. First, before we look at her, let's look at her qualifications, because she is Dr. Arlene Ackerman. So we want to take a look at her qualifications. This is the person we're talking about, Arlene C. Ackerman. She is the CEO and superintendent. I don't know why you would call someone who is the head of a public school a CEO. Of the School District of Philadelphia since June 2008. She began her lifelong career in urban education. Blah, 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 blah. So let's look at her qualifications. She holds a doctorate and master's degree from Harvard University's Graduate School of Education, and she has a master's degree in education administration and policy from Washington University, and a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Harris Stowe State College. So she's eminently qualified to loot the taxpayers' money and, of course, fail to educate our children, which they have done for the last 50 years running, dumbed them down and taught them a bunch of nonsense and garbage about social studies, and even though they don't know how to read or write or do math. So this is the education of this person. Now let's look at her story where she justifies, here's her pay. Will Arlene Ackerman make $500,000 this year? That's what a press release from Republican at-large candidate Malcolm Lazen saying. Well, he's saying a bit more than that. He's calling the fact that Superintendent Arlene Ackerman's making more money than, say, President Obama obscene. And he wants the School Reform Commission to fire her immediately. So, how's Ackerman go from $360,000 in 2010 to $500,000 in 2011? Well, Lazen obtained a copy of the employment agreement dated March 2008 between the School District of Philadelphia, and under the employment agreement, Ackerman will receive a salary of $340,000, a retention bonus of $100,000, $65,000 for a tax-sheltered annuity, $6,000 for life insurance, and 34 days of paid vacation, automobile, and annual bonus up to 20% of her salary, in addition to participating in the school district's health care and pension plan. The agreement allows Superintendent Ackerman to engage in up to 6 weeks of outside consulting with additional income. So let's watch Arlene Ackerman justify this. And it's not playing, so let it load here.
Philadelphia School District Superintendent Arlene Ackerman is responding to sharp criticism about her six-figure salary in light of painful school budget cuts. Some of the complaints were voiced last night when the school district held a public hearing on budget cuts. On the chopping block, 1,200 teaching jobs, elimination of most transportation, and going from full to half-day kindergarten. Parents are not happy.
When I'm reading in the newspaper that Dr. Ackerman made $350,000 last year and got...
Now, today, Dr. Ackerman responded, talking with NBC 10's Aditi Roy.
I hear those comments. I don't take them personally because I understand that it's easier to focus on a person or a personality than to say, what is the problem?
Dr. Ackerman says everyone benefits from a great school system, and she wants to get people focused on the larger issue.
Seems that Dr. Ackerman is the larger issue. I guess no more. So let's look at Ackerman, where she came from. She actually came from the San Francisco School District. And let's find that article. And they actually did an article on her in San Francisco back in 2006. Extra credit. Is outgoing school superintendent Arlene Ackerman worth a huge severance package? Oh, look, she did it before. And $45,000 in credit card charges? Find out where you stand. Arlene Ackerman, who became superintendent of the San Francisco Unified School District in 2000, announced last fall that she would be leaving her post at the end of this year because her strained relationship with several Board of Education members had become untenable. Her exit, however, has been just as rocky as her tenure. Amid contentious labor negotiations with the teachers' union, questions about the efficacy of her Dream Schools initiative, and the fiscally motivated closure and relocation of 14 schools last month, Ackerman negotiated a $375,000 severance package with the school district. Supervisors have passed a resolution asking Ackerman to rescind the money, followed by a disclosure that Ackerman racked up $45,000 in credit card expenses in 2005, mostly on fancy meals, airplane tickets, and hotels. The charges have been reimbursed by the district tax at taxpayers' expense. So here's a serial grifter, basically, on the public's dime, and she's continuing her ways. So you can see that the grifters on the left are continuing their looting of the public purse, and of course the looters and thieves on the right, like Bank of America, are going to soon be requesting another gigantic taxpayer bailout, as if the last trillions of dollars that they robbed from the Treasury aren't enough. So you can see we're doomed. We've got looters on the left and looters on the right who are basically robbing the public blind, and it looks like we're going to go down for the count. Obviously, gold and silver know this, and they're the only place you're going to be able to hide because the country's going down into bankruptcy. It's just a matter of time. Are we going to take the path of deflation? Are they going to pull the plug and crash everything? Or are we going to take the path of hyperinflation and they're just going to print money till there's no end? Either way, gold and silver are going to go astronomically higher, and I hope you have physical, because when the paper bonfire starts, there's not going to be anything left. And we'll talk to you next time.